Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
I'm very excited and extremely pleased to introduce Ann Harper as our speaker this morning. Ann is a past president of West Valley and has been a member since we were meeting at the Sign School. She was going to give me the year, but we forgot to coordinate. Anyway, it's been quite a number of years. Her first task as a member was to volunteer to be Circle Supper coordinator. Since she hardly knew anyone, she felt it was a great way to get acquainted, and she's been at it ever since. Currently, Ann is our office administrator, and among many other things, she compiles our weekly order of service. Ann grew up in California and was a Navy wife for many years, living in various parts of the country. She came to Arizona from New Hampshire, a spot which she still holds dear to her heart. In the 24 years she's been in Phoenix, she has joyously participated in the lives of her 3 grandchildren. She has 2 other grandchildren in in Florida. I don't know if it's Orlando or not. And one of whom she is looking forward to meeting for the first time later in the year. Other activities Ann enjoys are meeting with her writer's critique group and participating in an actor's workshop. Sometimes Ann's motto is, "Life is full and rich." At other times, she says it's, "Let me out of here." So I hope she's not in escape mode this morning. But she will now give her presentation entitled Animo, Animas, Animat. We'll let her conjugate.
Good morning. For all the Latin scholars with us this morning and or those who remember their Catholic school Latin classes, the title of this presentation is just my way of having fun with the Latin root. I know one doesn't conjugate a noun, but the verb form is animo, and the whole idea was to call attention, which seems to have worked. Have you ever read a book or magazine article and said to yourself, "That's exactly what I've felt in my bones for years, and here it is on the written page. He says it's so much better than I ever could." Or, "This is precisely what I'd have written if I had this writer's incredible ability." That is what I've come to feel about David Abram. Much of what I will share with you this morning is borrowed heavily from his 2010 book, Becoming Animal. I will not be doing this every time I quote him. You're hiking somewhat northwest of Sedona. Your goal is the Voltee Arch. You just leapt across a shallow stream and are continuing upward, following a well-worn path out of the pine forest's cool shadow. Time now to rest. You find a large boulder, large outcropping of granite, and sit, expecting to relax. Your thighs and buttocks respond to the chill of the rock's surface. That rock just sent you a message, and your body responded to it. You move to the surface of the rock that's enjoyed greater exposure to the sun this morning. I suppose it's silly to say that that rock just welcomed you, but then your body did respond to the warmth and the comfort. You accept this hospitality. Across the narrow canyon, you see the arch, a red rock bridge carved over centuries by the roar or the hum or the whistle of the wind. To the left of the arch, a cliff is still in shadow. A bird flutters about its vertical crevices. The sun moves. No, that's wrong. The earth moves. Ever so incrementally, warming sunlight invades those cool recesses, and the cliff comes alive with activity as its community of birds and lizards and insects begin their daily routines. As nocturnal creatures who make their cliff their home hunker down to refresh themselves for the return of daylight's end. You lie back, cushioning your head on your rolled-up puffy vest. Overhead, cloud formations tease your imagination. You close your eyes and hear the pine needles brushing against each other. No, that's silly. We don't hear pine needles brushing against each other. You sit up. But you close your eyes, and yes, you know instinctively that gentle whisper is emanating from the trees, and you are certain that your senses have isolated the melodic gurgle of water over rocks in that shallow stream bed. You are in complete awe. You let go and allow this amazing moment to wash over you. Your scalp tingles, the tiny hairs on your neck and shoulders react. Your entire being is experiencing this primitive sensation. Your animal self is still in there. I think I've got it. Back in the day, an estimated 1.5 million years ago, I cite this number only because of archaeological finds of crude tools. Back in that day, this sentience would have served to alert us to a danger, a predator in the neighborhood, or perhaps to the presence of a prospective dinner just upwind from us. Just when, one wonders, did the human animal begin to divorce itself from other animal species? At what point in our evolution did we begin to communicate other than physically? A toss of the head, a subtle movement of the shoulder. Perhaps it was as we began to give our limited range of grunts and snorts tonal refinement that translated to meaning, that could convey a message. Is it as believable to you as it is to me that humans at one time possessed ESP as part of our very nature? Over the millennia, diminished use of this aptitude led to its near extinction. I say near extinction because there are many well-documented cases of individuals who display high degrees of extrasensory perception. And I think it's fair to say that we've all experienced moments of intuition. We knew something inexplicably. Our whole being informed us. There are no doubt thousands of books and articles written on the subject, but this morning I'm asking you, when in our journey do you think we began to lose touch with our animal selves? Have we lost it entirely or just buried it in the course of our evolutionary push toward a higher plane of existence? Medieval Christian and even earlier religious writings rather arrogantly endowed men with dominion over all living things, leaving the eventual fulfillment of a grand master plan in the hands of an unseen, all-knowing, all-seeing, all-powerful entity, not to be argued with or questioned on penalty of the most awful punishment. For believers of these teachings, it was a simple next step to assume that the world was our oyster, that the aforementioned entity had put everything on earth here for human use and convenience. And so began the almost imperceptible erosion of visceral reciprocity with Mother Earth that humans have experienced and thrived within for 1,000 centuries. It was, and still is, the way of Aboriginal peoples to heed the minute-to-minute sanctity of all creation. We tend to consider many of their practices quaint or mystical or occult until we turn our attention to the actual bases for these practices. Immersion in the natural world, respect for the earth and all it provides, and awareness that we are all part of the big picture. Lynch Archuleta, our Yaqui Indian speaker of a couple weeks ago, touched on this very subject, that we are a participating component of everything that is happening all the time. Our minute-to-minute actions in this regard, whether beneficial or detrimental, are usually unconscious contributions. Perhaps this morning we shall become more conscious. Rock observing may remind you a bit of watching paint dry, except remember that boulder that you rested on near Sedona, the comfort it offered your weary body, its presence in those particular surroundings. I hesitate to say that rocks are living things too, and yet we say, and I'm quoting Abram now, that rock is here. The mountains are over there. We use the little verb to be countless times every day, and yet we forget that it is a verb, that it names an act, that simply to exist is a very active thing to be doing. End of quote. Consider the rock, then, attracting lichen spores from the air, offering a basking spot to a local lizard, safeguarding windblown seeds at its base until conditions for germination are perfect. Is there a rock or boulder in your life? Whether a gust or a breeze or a hurricane force, whether a gentle zephyr that sings through the pine branches, a pirouetting dust devil, or a mist-laden air current drifting across the wetlands, these are all manifestations of wind. Wind is known to have inspired the ancient words for spirit and psyche. It is the Latin anima, the soulful wind that animates all breathing things. It is the Navajo, Nichi, the sacred winds from which all beings draw their awareness. These sacred winds are a spiritual force in Navajo mythology that have more complex role and meaning than just the breath of life. They are the source of all motion and change, giving life to everything, including the mountains and water. These winds are the underlying force that unifies everything and provides the means of communication between all elements in the natural world. All of the elements, Abram says, of all the elements, wind is the most versatile and protean, offering in each region a different range of persona, varying itself according to the season and often, too, according to the direction from whence it arrives. Wind. It brings to us the delicate scent of the promise of spring, alerts us to an approaching deluge, well, around here, approaching raindrops. It lofts our kites and delivers the message to our olfactory receptors that the neighbors are having grilled brats for dinner. On one wall of the guest room in my home is a landscape mural entitled Earthrise. It is of the planet Earth rising low on the moon's horizon. From outer space, our planet, sometimes affectionately called the big blue marble, looks exactly like one. Vast blue oceans and seas occupying the majority of the planet's surface. Layers of interspersed cloud cover providing the appearance of marbling, turning, ever with the rotation of the Earth. Viewed from this perspective, we see Earth as a cocooned biosphere, nestled within its protective layers of exosphere and stratosphere and atmosphere. Back here on terra firma, our feet planted firmly, we are confident that gravity is the force that keeps us on Earth. Just so with the rivers and streams that hunker down to flow along their prescribed routes on Earth. Just so with the palm trees and prairie grasses sinking their roots, grasping the soil. Just so with salmon and antelope and daddy longlegs. Perhaps only the birds realize that we are not merely on Earth, but in the Earth. For reversing our perspective, we understand that all creatures, plants, mountain ranges, boulders, oceans, and air currents are immersed in this global scheme of ecosystems. The magical and sometimes playful quality of Bev Doolittle paintings demonstrates this in and of the earth concept so well. Native American spirituality and lore are the central themes of her work. She teases our senses with camouflaged images, at the same time expressing her undoubted reverence for the environment. If you're not familiar with Bev Doolittle, I've posted a few of her prints around here and there for you to enjoy this morning. Have any of you caught the Wednesday night PBS series Your Inner Fish? It has been exploring the origin of human physical characteristics, observing in the first episode the development of our arms and hands as they evolved from the fins of the first creatures to venture onto land. Episode 2 cites our reptilian ancestors for having passed along egg modifications for reproduction, including the substitution of amniotic fluid for the watery environment which had been our earliest home. Fascinating stuff. I haven't had time to view episode 3. I've been writing this. Here I must quote Abram again. If we accept Darwin's insight and concede that the human species has been shaped by the creative flux of evolution, then we must acknowledge that this enfolding biosphere is the very matrix within which our organism came to acquire its current form. Our senses have co-evolved with the chemistry of these waters and this air. Our human eyes have evolved in subtle interaction with other non-human eyes, as our ears are now tuned by their very structure to the howling of wolves and the thrumming of frogs. While gliding in huge undulant schools through the depths of amniotic oceans, or later, while crawling upon our bellies from puddle to puddle, our scaly skins shining in the sun, while racing beneath the grasses as tiny nocturnal mammals, or leaping from branch to branch as long-tailed primates, our brainy bodies have steadily formed themselves into dynamic interaction with the textures and rhythms of terrestrial nature. Our nervous systems, then, are wholly informed by the particular gravity of this sphere, by the way the sun's light filters down through the Earth's atmosphere, and by the cyclical tug of Earth's moon. In a thoroughly palpable sense, we are born of this planet. Our bodies co-evolved in rich and intimate rapport with other bodily forms, animals, plants, mountains, rivers, that compose the shifting flesh of this breathing world. So it is elemental earth that has lent us our particular proclivities and gifts, our specific style of behavior. Our way of moving, our modes of perception, our unique habits of thought and contemplation have all been informed by the variegated nature of this wild, flowering world. End of quote. This seems like a good time to consider reciprocity, the give and take of our blue boat home. We breathe in air, we breathe out air. We inhale oxygen, we exhale carbon dioxide, benefiting the plant life around us. The plants, in turn, with the aid of sunlight and water, produce oxygen for us and other animal species, which we inhale, and so it goes. We smell the tomato vine we've brushed against, and the aroma triggers a quest for a ripe fruit. A meandering mosquito smells us. We find a bright red cherry, pop it into our mouth, and chomp down. The mosquito plunges her needle-like mouthpart into our upper arm and sucks a bellyful of blood. We have enjoyed the exhilaration of that small burst of fruit on our taste buds. The female mosquito has obtained enough protein to assure the development of her eggs, and so it goes. As omnivores, we human types partake of the world's largesse to nourish our bodies, whether it be fruits and vegetables, grains, the flesh of fish, fowl, or our brother mammals. In doing so, we participate in a cycle of exchange. The plants producing our fruits and vegetables thrive on minerals and decomposed organic matter in the soil. Fish subsist mainly on life forms within their environments of lake, stream, or sea, sometimes bugs, insects, and worms, sometimes smaller fish. And I must interject that the feeding fish seems the only plausible explanation for the existence of mosquitoes. The point here is that we are all recipients and contributors to the cycle of life. The barley seed ingested by the magpie is processed in the bird system, part of it being used as nourishment, the balance passing out of the bird as bodily waste. The bodily waste returns to the soil to enrich it so that it can continue to produce barley or other plant life. When the magpie dies, its body will feed various field creatures, eventually broken down by ants and worms and microbes, and return also to the soil. Just so with us humans, a topic about which many are squeamish. But maybe not so much once we are comfortable with the idea of being of the earth and in the earth's enveloping, breathing, nourishing, sustaining, reciprocating, interdependent web of life. Francis of Assisi got it. He preached to man and beast the universal ability and duty of all creatures to praise God, and the duty of men to protect and enjoy nature as both stewards of God's creation and as creatures ourselves. During World Environment Day in 1982, John Paul II said that St. Francis's love and care for creation was a challenge for contemporary Catholics and a reminder, quote, not to behave like dissident predators where nature is concerned, but to assume responsibility for it, taking all care so that everything stays healthy and integrated so as to offer a welcoming and friendly environment even to those who succeed us. End quote. Van Gogh got it. His paintings of haystack in the snow, you can almost feel the hairs of your nostrils freeze in the crisp, icy air. Starry Night all but explodes with the hum of energy pulsing through the cosmos. And so it goes with irises, potato eaters, and the wash of shoreside water against the wooden hulls of boats. In closing, I offer this further quote from Becoming Animal. It is commonplace to observe that today the perceived world is everywhere filtered and transformed by technology, altered by the countless tools that interpose themselves between our senses and the earthly sensuous. It is less common to suggest that there is a wildness that still reigns underneath all these mediations. Our creaturely body, shaped in ongoing interaction with other bodies that compose the biosphere, remains poised and thirsting for contact with otherness. The religions of the book freed civilization to manipulate its surroundings with a more utilitarian abandon, unleashing a steadily rising tide of invention and innovation. Yet our impulse, our yearning for engagement with a more than human otherness has never been eradicated. The mass turn toward formal religion by citizens of industrial nations in the last half of the century gives evidence that human craving for relation with that which exceeds us is as strong as ever. Nonetheless, given the ancestral impulse toward otherness at the core of this craving, it is not likely to be finally sated by any god made in our image, any more than it will be satisfied by our human-made technologies. When we speak of the human-animal spontaneous interchange with the animate landscape, we acknowledge a felt relation to the mysterious that was active long before any formal or priestly religions. Temporarily forgotten, paved over, yet never eradicated, This old reciprocity with the breathing earth was here long before our formal religions and will likely outlast all of our formal religions. There is no disdain of religion in such a statement. We can honor the awesome eloquence of each religion while acknowledging the precarious nature of church-based faiths in today's crowded and crisis-ridden world. Our greatest hope for the future rests not in the triumph of any single set of beliefs, but in the acknowledgement of felt mysteries that underlie all our doctrines. There are no priests needed for such faith, no intermediaries to effect our contact with the sacred, since carnally immersed as we are in the thick of this breathing planet, we have our own intimate access to the big mystery. End quote. Soon, maybe this afternoon, get quietly comfortable on your patio or mosey over to the nearby park, or maybe really get out there on an adventurer's club hike and think about these things. Recognize and acknowledge your animal self, greet your animate cohabitants, and immerse yourself in this wonderful stew of which we are all a part. Thank you. And 1064, we're going to sing, is it 1060? I'm sorry, 1067? Last hymn, Blue Boat Home.
Though below me I feel no motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean, still my dry land heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun my sail and moon my rudder, as I ply the starry seas, lead me over the edge in wonder, stealthy questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companion, all we kindred pilgrim souls, away by the lights of the heavens, in our beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, and the great wind surging me on. Breathe the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born above the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
As I extinguish the chalice, please turn in your order of service, and we will read in unison the mission statement. We agree to provide a safe place to celebrate diversity, draw inspiration for living better lives, foster social and environmental justice, and compassionately support each other in our spiritual searches. For the closing words, I will read number 683 in the back of the hymnal. Be ours a religion which, like sunshine, goes everywhere. Its temple all space, its shrine the good heart, its creed all truth, its ritual works of love, its profession of faith divine living. Thank you. So lucky to have you.